So after we'd been in Gabon for about, I would say 15 years, maybe a little less, 10 years, I had had some surgical training, 2 years, but that I hadn't finished my 5-year residency. And there were just hundreds of people coming who needed really a fully trained surgeon. And so I had to eventually go back to the States, finish my surgical training, came out, back out, and again, though, I was the only surgeon for a couple 100,000 people. And so the hours that I was working got longer and longer. People were coming even from the capital city. And so there were just many emergencies, many nights I was up. I was working about 120 hours a week. And I knew I couldn't keep it. I couldn't sustain it. By that time, we had 2 children, and I wasn't spending enough time with my family. And so really, I began praying and just asking God to please send another surgeon. And God didn't send another surgeon. I mean, we came back to the States on furlough, and I spoke in maybe 20 churches or 30 churches and begged surgeons to come and help me, and nobody came. And so we went back out there, and it just got worse and worse. And so one day I kept asking God to send somebody. And one day I was really frustrated. I said, God, why can't you do this? This is an easy thing. Send me another surgeon to help me. And that's when God said to me very clearly, he said, David, you train them. And I thought, well, that was a random thought. There's no way that's going to happen. And I kept praying. And again, God said, you train them. And so I said, well, how? And at that point, God began giving me some ideas. And then the next year, we went to the CMDA conference in Kenya, met all these other surgeons. We were there for continuing medical education. And they were all in the same boat. We were all experiencing the same thing, burnout. And some were quitting and leaving. And so we got together, and and I just proposed to them what the Lord had said to me. And they said, yeah, let's do this. And so that was the beginning of PAX. That was in 1996.
Oh, wow. That's an amazing story. Can you just elaborate on, okay, the people that were burning out and leaving, then, I mean, how did that leave the people that were there to serve?
Yeah.
So kind of, because what we're trying to capture with the video is like the overall need and this tension that started the PAX program.
Yeah. Well, the reason that surgeons were, like myself, were giving up was just, there were too many cases for us to manage, and people were coming with broken bones, and you know, for a general surgeon, we can fix bones, but not as good as orthopedists, and we were just burning out. And when a hospital lost its surgeon, its only surgeon, usually that was like 50% of the income for the hospital, and so even some of those hospitals closed. So it was really a very difficult time, and all of the surgeons who met in Kenya at that time in 1996, we all, as we started sharing with each other, we realized we were in the same boat and it was sinking. So that's when we said we need to do something. We need to start training Christian African doctors to be surgeons, and so we agreed that was where we actually established PAX, and with the help of the CMDA, Christian Medical and Dental Association, backing us, we all went back to our hospitals, and we had agreed that we would start training programs. I was the only one that was able to start at the beginning, except for one other surgeon, Harold Adolph, up in Galmi in Niger. But that program closed after 2 years also. So it really was a desperation move, and the idea came from God, I have to say.
So I do need something that spells out the whole title of PAX, which is a mouthful. But could you just encapsulate again God speaking to you and telling you to start training surgeons, and that kind of became the Pan-African Academy.
Okay. So when the Lord told me, you train them, I was just, I couldn't figure out how. But I kept praying, and as over that next year, the Lord gave me many ideas, and the idea was to set up training programs, and one at our hospital and maybe other hospitals, but we would have to get the support of other surgeons and even outside organizations. So when we met then in Kenya, and I met all these other surgeons, what I said to them was, if we don't start training surgeons, we're all going to be gone in the next 5 years or 10 years. Younger surgeons are not coming. They don't want to come out and live the way we're living. They want to be able to raise their families and be present. And so that really was the impetus for us to move forward, plus the knowledge that God wanted us to do this. And so the idea was we would set up American-style 5-year surgical training programs. We'd use the same textbooks as I was trained with, American textbooks. We would, it would be a rigorous program. We would have examinations. We would have weekly quizzes, reading assignments, and there would also be training in the operating room with our residents starting in day one, and it would be a 5-year program. Along with that would be a discipleship program, because we wanted to make disciples.
And can you, I'm still looking for the Pan-African Academy of Christian Surgeons, so
yeah.
Something about, and that's how, you know.
Yeah. So when we organized, we had to come up with a name, and so we first came up with Pan-African College of Christian Surgeons, but then we changed it to Pan-African Academy of Christian Surgeons, because we really weren't going to be a college of surgeons. We were going to be a training program across Africa, and Academy fit it better. And so that's what we call PACS.
So, so I think, to me, what's unique about PACS is that it's bringing together the surgery with high standards and the discipleship, bringing them together. Why is it so much better that a surgeon ministering to their own people in their own heart language is so much more, is so much better idea?
Yeah, yeah.
And if you can bring in the word Pan-African Academy of Christian Surgeons,
Yeah.
whenever you have the opportunity.
Okay, all right. One of the real blessings of this program under the Pan-African Academy of Christian Surgeons was that we were training and discipling African surgeons. Many would go back to their own people, not all of them. Some would go to other countries even, and they knew their languages, they knew their culture, and it was just a huge blessing and boost, I think, to have an African who was fully trained, equally trained as we American surgeons, caring for these people. The people were very proud of our graduates, and we were too, but because they just became amazing surgeons, but also they were witnesses. They were sharing the gospel with their patients, and they had that ability greater than we did, because we were foreigners. They were among their own people. It's really been an amazing thing to see. And I'd have to say there's quite a few number of my graduates who surpassed me in their skills, and certainly surpassed me in their witness for Christ.
Wow, that's great. I love this story.
Mm-hmm.
I think you've answered a lot of these questions. One of the tensions that we want to have in the film is just the tremendous need for surgeons in Africa, and how PACS has helped shape meeting that need.
Mm-hmm. There's a tremendous need in surgery of surgery in Africa. You can imagine, if there's a great need in our country, in developed countries, imagine what it's like in undeveloped countries where there's been brain drain for decades and decades, many of their doctors leaving their countries. One of the wonderful things about PACS is that as our residents have completed their training, they have stayed in Africa. They have not gone to Europe or the United States except maybe for a year or two of extra training, and then they've come back. So the Pan-African Academy of Christian Surgeons has solved multiple problems, and it's provided increasing numbers of surgeons for communities that in the past didn't even have a surgeon. Maybe there are places in Africa where there was one surgeon for 1 million people, which means that most of the people have no access to surgery. That's beginning to change now as more and more of our graduates are coming out and working both in Christian hospitals and in some government hospitals. They have really brought the standard of surgery up too, in the places where they have been. There was something there I missed that you asked me.
Well, yeah, I forget now. But talk about that, like most surgeons, their motivation behind going into medicine and how the PACS surgeon, with their heart to serve the people, are going to underserved areas and
Among the poor, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. We're really blessed also when we see our graduates going to places where really there's no wealth in it for them. There's not much money at all for them. And they're going there to serve their people, serving primarily the poor, and in places that are unserved. And so they're bringing not only excellent surgical care, they're bringing also the gospel and sharing that with their patients. They're just a living witness to people, to their people, of what Christ can do. And we've seen now, as more and more of our graduates are working both in Christian hospitals and even in government hospitals, that the standard for surgery has been rising. And I think that PACS has a great deal to do with that. We also are seeing the numbers come down. So instead of one surgeon for 1 million people or 2 million, it's come down to one surgeon for 200,000 or 100,000 people. That's still an enormous number of people. But our surgeons work very hard. They have kept many Christian hospitals from going under in Africa, and I'm really blessed by that.
That's cool. Yeah, that was great. Oh, you keep answering some of these questions. What's let me